and good afternoon to Tvesha, which is my honor guest for today. And in this episode of my podcast called Diplomaticast, we're gonna talk about a country which is very important, but not very considered all around the modern society, which is India. And Tvesha, as my honor guest, she will help me to understand, also to explain to you what is India, what is its purpose, and what is its geopolitical context within the modern society. Okay, so Tvesha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, first of all. I'll try my best from a youth's perspective, from someone who has been researching about geopolitics and climate change since the past 1 year. I think I will be able to help you, and I just hope that I can help you as much as possible.
No, yeah, definitely you will help me. Okay, so the episode is gonna be divided in different topics. Like I would like to start first with the non-alignment state of India. So India is considered as the center of the Middle East, but also in the Asian side. In fact, if we consider the geopolitical context, is geopolitical scenario, India is stuck between Russia and China, so two big giants in the Asian continent. But also at the same time, India has different deals, different trades with the European Union, with the United States, but also other neighborhoods such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, but also the South Asian, like Indonesia, which is another giant in the southeast side. And so, the fact that India, let's start from a historical context. India was it was a colony of the British Empire, but after 1947, it was divided into three other states. We have, of course, India, which is the biggest one. Then we have Pakistan and Bangladesh, from the west and east side. The particularity is these three countries are divided by their religion. In fact, to my audience, India, the main religion in India is Hinduism. Correct me, Tvesha, if it's correct.
Yes, it is the major religion of our country.
Instead, in Pakistan, is Muslim religion. So this particular difference, established the two countries that we have nowadays. But instead, concerning the non-alignment strategia, non-alignment concept, it's important to say that India is in the middle between the BRICS, because it's part of the BRICS countries, which is like a coalition with Russia, China, India, recently Brazil, some countries of the Arabic Peninsula, and also Argentina, and so on. But also recently, he joined many important deals with the European Union and the United States, especially. So, as you can see, compared to China or Russia, it is not a specific strategy in contraposition with the Western powers, but on the contrary, it has to be in the middle. It has to be the bridge between different countries. And so, Tvesha, I would like to know your point of view, your perspective. What do you think about this concept of India? What do you think this strategy will lead on?
Definitely. So when we talk about the non-alignment, especially in the Indian context, we majorly are referring, let me go back into a bit of history. We majorly are referring to the approach which India adopted during the World War era. Through the non-alignment movement, according to me, we chose neither to align with the US or the Soviet bloc. And personally, I see modern India practicing what many scholars call multi-alignment rather than a strict non-alignment. For example, India is a part of the strategic groupings like the Quad, while it also maintains very long-standing ties with Russia and engages actively with Europe through trade and climate partnerships. So my opinion is that non-alignment today is not about staying neutral, even though it does provide us with a lot of flexibility, being a developing nation right now. It's not about staying neutral, it's about us trying to maintain a strategic autonomy. Like India makes decisions based on its national interest rather than being pulled into rigid alliances. And I think that is one of the best things we as a country have done, because we should not be supporting one country very blindly, because we never know what goes wrong. There might be an issue with some countries' policies not aligning with ours, and the next day the policy or the country's perspective is amended, and we still have to be mandated in order to partner with them. That is not something I would really prefer. And with Indian citizens living all across the globe, and I by all across the globe I mean US and Russia are two of the major countries where Indian citizens are residing. Aligning with only one country does not provide us with much perk. And you talked about religion too, with Pakistan and Bangladesh that got divided, of course. I think the non alignment movement was never a religious alliance, obviously, it was political. And in India's case, leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru believed strongly in secularism, and today, too, till date, we believe strongly in secularism, whether it be the government or whether it be the citizens of our country. The In my opinion, both ideas reflect a very similar principle. It is balance and independence. The non alignment movement provides us with independence, which is really needed for India right now, currently looking at its geopolitical alliances or looking at its current government. And I think what's really interesting is how the idea of non alignment, or how we call strategic autonomy, is still visible in the way India engages with countries that may not always align with each other. For instance, India has deepened partnership with Western countries and the European Union, especially through trade and climate cooperation, as I have mentioned previously. While at the same time, we also maintain strong defense and energy ties with Russia. And these are countries that are often opposing, right, globally or especially in the current geopolitical climate. And similarly, India is a part of the Quad alongside US, Japan, and Australia, which is often seen as balancing China's influence. But at the same time, India continues diplomatic and economic engagement with China even after tensions. So, to be very honest, I think this reflects a very conscious strategy from India's side, where India is not isolating itself or choosing a rigid side, but instead it is engaging across different terms and across different things and protecting its own interests.
No, yeah, absolutely. In fact, maybe nowadays is the best strategy like to use. In fact, like being the mediator, the neutral, it's always been the best choice. In fact, like Switzerland in Europe, like was always has always been part of the neutral, like the neutral side of the superpowers. In fact, thanks to this concept, this idea, like it has developed like a lot of a lot of development within the country, but also was like the core of the Europe. In fact, like every kind of economics movement or social movement passed through Switzerland. But also, as you said, India, like compared to China or Russia, it has not a precise, a definitive strategy of contraposition. And that's the best thing that India like is doing nowadays. Also because being the mediator, like as it was in G20, so India, like when he hosted G20, like for the first time, he showed up to the world that is part of the society. Like India decided to be seen not as a threat, but as a bridge, a point of connection between cultures. Even if there's a particularity that he joins BRICS, but also is part of a coalition which is called Quad. I recently discovered this. So the Quad, it's an alliance, so between a couple of countries, and it's the main purpose was created in order to defend these countries, but like other minor countries with China. So it was an anti-China coalition, even if nowadays it's only for economic purposes. So, in fact, like United States is part of this alliance, but as we know, is also part of NATO. And NATO nowadays is struggling with the American will. So the President Donald Trump, I'm referring to my audience, like for those who were distracted, President Trump is thinking to abandon the NATO alliance because the amount of resources, the amount of money dedicated to the defense was not enough for him. My personal opinion is that the NATO as an alliance cannot be stand without the United States, because unfortunately Europe has not this military capability or this military power to face future problems. Okay, so let's go to another topic, which is India and Pakistan. Like, I would like to talk into the humanitarian case, because first I would like to mention that both these countries, both of them, are nuclear powers. And maybe because of this nuclear powers threat for both sides, maybe it's good because they cannot threat each other. They cannot start a war, because it will be a complete disaster. But on the other hand, it's very, very hard to find a compromise, to find a meeting point. And so, Tvesha, so I would like to ask you, what is your opinion, like from your perspective of an Indian person living in this kind of situation? Do you feel like do you feel threat about this situation, about this military situation, military fact, or is just an habit?
So, like you asked about India and Pakistan, I think the case, when we talk about India and Pakistan as nuclear powers, the stakes are obviously much more higher. The presence of nuclear weapons creates a kind of deterrence, when we often talk to as the nuclear deterrence principle, where both sides are aware that escalation could have some major consequences. From India's perspective, though, this actually reinforces the need for restraint, but without compromising on our national security. When you think about attacks like the Pulwama attack, for example, or most recent, the targeted attacks in Jammu and Kashmir, which remind us that nuclear deterrence may prevent full scale war, but it does not eliminate smaller scale conflicts or security threat, to be very particular. And what I, as the citizen of India, have noticed very much is the possibility of these wars and the rivalry between the two nations being related to religion on a major scale. I think religion is often seen as one of the central factor in India-Pakistan relations, but it's important to understand it carefully, that the origin of these conflicts do not have a religious dimension. Going back to the partition of India, where the creation of Pakistan was based definitely and purely on the idea of separate homelands for Muslims, while India chose to define itself as a secular state with multiple religions. We have Islam, Hinduism, we have Christianity, we have every single religion in this country, and of course, India is a secular country. But today, I would say that the tensions are less about religion itself and more about political or territorial and security issues, especially around cross border terrorism and regional stability. Religion does, however, influence public perception and narratives on both sides, which we can see in India very often, where people are comparing India and Pakistan as a fight between the Hindus and the Muslims. But I personally do not believe that, because we have Islam in India, we have Muslims living in India too, and there is no reason to harass a particular religion or defame a particular religion, because some people are using the name of that religion to attack another. I believe you get my point. So what I mean is, religion shapes narratives, but the stability of both of these countries definitely depends on how responsibly the leaders of both the nations decide to collaborate. And if I talk as a normal citizen of India, I see the religion and India-Pakistan relations as something that is deeply rooted in history, especially like I mentioned before, since the partition of India. So I believe most Indian today don't see India-Pakistan as a religious conflict, but as a complex geopolitical issue, which we should all consider and not at all make this a religious thing. And pace is important, definitely, but it has to come with accountability as well as safety for all of the members of our country, for all of the citizens of our country, to be very sure.
No, absolutely, I agree. In fact, like I remember, I watched an Italian YouTuber like who went to Pakistan and Indian border, and there was like you know better than me that there's a kind of ceremony, a kind of celebrity, like where both army like meet each other, and like they start dancing and do like some of folkloristic actions. I mean, it's a wonderful it's a wonderful day because like once a year, the two armies which like should, according to many people, should fight or die, but on the contrary, they celebrate. So they show their power, but in a positive way, as everyone should do actually. So yeah, then you spoke about the religion. Yeah, religion, like for sure, it's one of the most important thing that define a country. But like as we know, United States is a major country with thousands of different religious religion. So from the Catholic, from Muslim, also atheists, and so on, many others. I mean, despite that, there's a lot of variety in the United States people, but this not complicate is their attachment to the country, their motive to be proud of it, and so yeah, I mean that's the same. Also, India is such a huge country with more than 1 billion people, so actually like keep all of them together quite a miracle. It's very quite a miracle. Also, and this moves to our next topic, which is the Indian diaspora. So the world's most influent invisible network. In fact, thanks to the huge population of India, like China, also, they spread and they are all over around the world. In fact, I would like to mention some of the most important people, Indian people, that define society, such as the CEO of Google is Indian American, the CEO of Microsoft, he was also Indian American. Then we have the ex Prime Minister of United Kingdom. If you remember, he was Indian
Mr. Rishi
family.
Sunak.
Kamala Harris, he has an Indian descent. I don't know, like if you okay. So yeah, I mean, all of these people come from an Indian context, Indian background, and that also defines the importance of diaspora, Indian diaspora. Like I would like to make a parallelism with Italy also. Like Italy, like since the first year of its unification, had a huge diaspora abroad, in particular in the United States, but also recently in Europe, in South America, and a little bit in Asia. Yeah, like in particular in China and India, in Indian countries. Like I was looking about with some numbers, and there are more than 32 million people living abroad. So the largest diaspora in the world. And so this makes, even if so many people live abroad, but this brings a lot of benefits. Like as India and Italy have so many people abroad, maybe it can be a good thing. In fact, such as the India GDP is increasing, as the Italian one recently, because the people that go abroad, according to to many people, they think if we go outside and we leave our country, maybe it will be like according to them, there's a break point. So I don't come back. I don't want to know about Italy or my country anymore because I don't care. But on the contrary, that's a good thing. On the contrary, you are bringing money, you are bringing resources to your country of origin. And that's very important. And so, and that's lead us to my question to you. Like, how do you see this Indian diaspora? For you, is it a good thing, or it can be prevented? Or do you think people can can bring much more autonomy to the Indian society.
Definitely. I think this is one of the biggest concerns as well as advantages that India has right now. The population, specifically the population of the youth in our country, which is way more than other countries if we see currently. And that brings me to my point that having a lot of population on a land as small as India, because when we compare India with China, China has a huge population, but they also have a huge land to balance that population. On the other hand, if we look at India, we have a huge, enormous population, but at the same time, we do not have a land as big as China to control or to accommodate that population. And again, bringing addressing to the point that you said, as an Indian citizen, I think having a large number of Indians abroad is both an opportunity and a challenge. Like on the positive side, the Indian diaspora contributes significantly through global networking or by basically strengthening India's soft power. They act as cultural as well as economic bridges between India and other countries. But at the same time, if I see it, there is concern about this term called brain drain, which I was reading about a few days ago, where highly skilled professionals of our country are moving abroad for better opportunities. And that has impacted certain sectors in our home state. However, today we can see, as you've mentioned, we have a huge number of people working abroad who have such great contributions to, geopolitics or to the politics of UK or US. But the thing is that people are moving out from India currently because of the current issues we are facing with population, the current issues we are facing with religious riots, we can say. And that kind of puts us at a backhand where the most capable people of our country, the most capable citizens of our country, one of the most, I would say, are moving abroad. And even though that is contributing to our country in a way, but that does not provide a direct service to our country.
No, 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 no. In fact, like it's as everything is good and like positive and negative aspects. That's for sure. Yeah, and then no, yeah, go,
if
please.
Yeah, sure, thank you. If I even talk about climate change, for instance, which is one of the major things I'm researching, climate change has become a very important issue to handle in India, and that is becoming much more and more hard because of the population of our country. We have to provide more and more resources to people with less and cheaper rates. And that, in a way, is aligning our government and the industries of our country to use cheaper cheaper things, and we cannot invest much on sustainability because of that currently. We have to use plastic in order to make things that can be made with healthier alternatives, but we have to use that because the industries have to generate and produce such large amount of things, such large amount of products. So that also plays a significant role in which we as a country are lagging behind, why we are lagging behind in climate change. We can also talk about the cars that are outside on the road. Each and every, basically almost every third or fourth family in India has a car or an automobile in their home, which generates a lot of pollution. And given again the population of India, this pollution is going out of control because sustainable alternatives are present, but they are very expensive, or the Indian youth or the Indian citizen does not know about it due to lack of proper education in terms of climate change.
No, no, in fact, like as for my audience, yesterday I took part of a Tvesha seminar conference about climate change, and we had the opportunity to talk about climate change, like, but not only the India one, which I'm gonna do now in a few moments, in a few seconds, but we talked about the possibility and the opportunities that we can use nowadays, that we can take advantage of, such as this is the perfect moment to start using the renewable energies. In fact, because of this tension, this situation correlated to the Iran war conflict, Iran-Israel conflict, we understood as humanity that we cannot use the same amount of energy always forever. In fact, like the fuel fossil energies are ending up. So we are getting closer to the end of these energies. And for this reason, we must be aware to use and be also brave to use the new energies, because we're completely sure that they never happen, they will never end. So in fact, like another of data, so in May 2023, India recorded the temperature from 45 to 47 degrees Celsius. So, and this is an incredible news. In fact, like India is the third largest emitter of CO2 after China and United States. But this doesn't mean that Europe, like my country, Italy, is completely out of this. Like, of course, like the amount of the energies, the amount of fossil fuels used by the population is very important. I mean, that's we all know about that. But even if one human, one person can use less, can pollute less, it can make the difference. And so, like India, so concerning India in particular, and Tvesha, you can confirm or you can interrupt me whenever you want. India has set a zero net target for 2070. So 20 years after the United States and the European Union, and 10 years after China. So, like all countries, all different countries they set a certain period, amount of period in order to establish like a particular I don't the word in English. Yeah, a particular concept. So for the next future, and this is very important, even if like concerning to the situation, the current situation, maybe things will change, or maybe they can be anticipated when we reach like a certain point. So like we hope that things can change in better. That's for sure. And then also, I would like to ask you then, like I would like to introduce the next topic, the next point, which is the water. So, because like for many experts, so for many geopolitical experts and actors, water will be the next Indian war. So, what is your opinion about this?
Definitely. If I got a question right, you asked about water having. I'm sorry, I did not quite get your question.
So the question was like the water. So water as a resource, like for many countries, even if there's a climate change that is completely completely opposing the state of worlds, the state of the world. Like some countries have access to clean water, and others they don't have any water at all. And so this is one of the most important thing. Like for example, I'm looking another data, and it says that India has 18% of world's population and 4% of its freshwater reserves. And so, like, do you think India can reach a point where the water will be rationalized as it's using, for example, for the resources of oil, gas, and so on?
Definitely, I understand your point now. So, when you talk about water as a concept, it is becoming one of the most critical challenges linked to climate change as well as population growth. If I talk about India, many regions in India are facing water stress due to overuse of groundwater, irregular monsoons, rising temperatures, and overall cities like Delhi, the capital of India, and parts of South India have already started to experience real shortages in the recent years. In terms of how our government is addressing this issue is through major initiatives. For example, we have in India, when it's in Hindi, the Jal Jeevan Mission, that is the Water Life Mission, where we try to conserve as much water as possible, and we try to cleanse in the rivers, which it basically aims to provide tap water to rural Indian households, people who cannot afford clean water. The government provides tap water that is clean to those rural households. Um, Alongside that, we can also talk about the Atal Bhujal Yojana that we have currently in India, and it majorly focuses on sustainable groundwater use. So, India, when I talk about India, India is not, I cannot address the whole country because we have different cultures, we have different religions, we have different practices all around the country. If I start to compare North India to Northeast India, the cultures are very different. For example, in North India, we get our water from glaciers majorly. From where I'm from Himachal, North India, we get our major water from either underground water, or through glaciers. And when I come to Northeast India, we get it mainly through monsoon, through rains. And Northeast India has cultural practices to preserve water. One of the best things about the country is its collective consciousness regarding saving water. But in the recent years, we have seen that that collective consciousness is not coming of any use. People are using the name of religion. Again, I would like to address religion in this point because religion is one of the major factors in India. We as a religion, if we talk of Hinduism, we pray water, we thank nature, we worship it because it provides life, it creates life, it nurtures us and every single thing. But at the same time, we do not realize that by worshipping it, we cannot save water as a whole. We have to save water through sustainable practices and not just by worshipping it. Because recent issues regarding the Yamuna River or the Ganga River in India has arisen, where they are getting polluted because of puja materials that we use for worshipping. We use flowers and some particular religious things to worship the water, and after that it is a practice to let that all of the stuff, whether it be plastic or whether it be mud, to go directly in the water. There is this practice of visarjan in our country, visarjan, in which we drown the idols which we pray to for about 9 to 10 days. And that resurgence has also created a lot of issues in India. So I think India currently is kind of failing to address the issue with this thing in particular, because religion again plays a major role in our politics, and addressing the issues of only one religion will result in issues for the current government. But we are trying our best, and youth initiatives or private firms currently in India, alongside the government, are working to make this better. People, organizations, NGOs, NPOs, they're all working towards making India more sustainable and clean. And I also think this is one of the major good things about social media, that is westernization, globalization, due to which we can see that countries like the US and the UK are maintaining development alongside sustainability, because development and sustainability have to coexist. You cannot develop a country and pollute everything apart from it. You can develop a country because, to be very honest, Mr. Nicolo, when you develop a country, waste will be generated. You cannot ignore the fact that if a mill is set up, then no waste will be generated. Waste, of course, will be generated, but we need to find much more better and sustainable ways to dispose of that waste. We cannot go ahead and dispose those wastes in water bodies or in landfills, because that is ruining our mother nature, the mother that we worship. We call nature our mother, and yet we fail to see that we are ruining and tempering with the same goddess or mother that we worship.
No, you definitely get the point. In fact, like I would like to mention like another parallelism with China, because the main difference between India and China, even if they have the more or less the same population, so the huge population, more than 1 billion people, but China at a different, of course, they had a different kind of concept, cultural society. They don't have religion as the key aspect of the society. So religion, on the contrary, on the other hand, is completely put apart from the Communist Party, and maybe this is the main difference. So between the two countries. Also, the development of China was due to the different invasion that he had throughout the centuries. For example, from the Western countries, from the Japanese colonization, but also from the inner revolutions that completely shaped the society as it is right now. Instead, India, apart from the British colonialism, was completely autonomous. So India has never felt this kind of colonization, this kind of repression or inner revolutions. So also these little details make a country as it is right now, or its future especially. And I would like to mention also the fact that India has a huge power, like in particular for the future. I like to call it the sleeping giant, because it has such a potential that this country has that can completely shape the next future. Its own future, but also for its neighborhoods. And yeah, also I would like to mention also, as the last point, the inner division of the Indian society. As you can confirm, Indian is very divided because of its large population, because of the different religion, the different cultural aspects, and also the mentality that some region has compared to the other one. So, last question for you, Tvesha. Do you think India can reach... okay, or maybe I can ask you this question, maybe it's better. Do you think it's better to have a unique mentality? Is it better for you, India has to have one certain mentality for all the country, within also different societies and different cultures? Or you prefer that this difference within it can lead to a better society?
Yes, I think this is what puts India ahead and apart from other countries of the whole world. I think the demographic differences, the religions, the cultures, different practices, the diversity in India is what makes it unique and is what puts it apart from the rest of the world. Unity and diversity is actually a constitutional value. Our constitution, the Constitution of India, one of the longest constitutions ever written, guarantees the equality before law, freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, which allows different communities to preserve their identities while still being part of one nation. Because we might be belonging to different religions, different clans, different tribes, different states, to be very particular, but at the end of the day, when you sit in front of the TV watching your country play cricket against a country, or when you watch your country play football against a country, we all become one as a whole. And sports plays a huge role in this, first of all. But the true strength of India, what I have always heard from my parents, is if you want to see the true unity and diversity of India, it can be watched through two things: through the army of India, which is diverse in every single way, and secondly, while Indians are watching cricket match of India and Pakistan, because you can see at that moment where every single person of this country comes together. So yeah, jokes apart, with so many languages, religions, and traditions, India's strength lies in accommodating differences rather than eliminating them. Because of course challenges do exist, and maintaining unity requires constant effort, dialogue, mutual respect, a lot of problems too, to be very honest. But I do believe that achieving unity in diverse society is possible, and which is currently happening in India. We do not have to make everyone the same in order for them to feel the feeling of nationhood, but we have to make sure that everyone feels equally valued and included. That, in my opinion, makes India very unique. And making everyone feel belonged to the country is one of the aspects that we are working towards. Because I think you might have heard that northeastern part of our country is currently influenced, and news regarding them being claimed by China. China is claiming that part of our country. Pakistan and China is claiming parts of Kashmir and Jammu of our country. But at the end of the day, regardless of all these geopolitical tensions in our country, regardless of every single thing, we as a whole support each other. The citizens of India from what I have seen, the current generation, Gen Zs, the Gen Zs are often considered to be one of the most dumb generations because of social media, but it is one of the best generations according to me, because these geopolitical issues that we are facing have been, of course, created by our ancestors and because of the adults working in the country. They have done this because of their own perception of the world, because of their own ideology of the world. But the current generation that we have right now definitely believes in unity and diversity. It definitely believes in giving each and every individual their own right, because you can belong from different cultures, but if you are treated the same in a country, if you do not care about what the other person's religion is or caste is or tradition is, and still accept him as an Indian, then that is the true essence of India, is what I would like to say.
Thank you so much, Tvesha. Thank you so much. In fact, like these words can be inspired like many people. In fact, like even if we come from different cultures, different backgrounds, but like we have the same. I always say that we have the same mentality. Like the world is huge, is big, but at the same time is very little, is very small. Like we have a proverb in Italy to say that quanto è piccolo il mondo. So like it means that when you meet someone from the other part of the world, but you still have the same idea or the same mentality, it means that you can have a conversation, you can have a dialogue, and you respect each other. So this is the most important thing. Respect each other
Yes.
and understand the other. Yeah, please.
And actually, as you mentioned the proverb from Italy, I also remember a proverb from India, that is Vasudeva Kutumbakam. It is a very beautiful and one of the guiding principles of Indian geopolitics, and it reflects India's deeper, civilizational values. It means that beyond these borders, beyond these religions and cultures, we see the entire world as one family, not the entire country, but the entire world as one family. I think this idea fits very well with India's constitutional vision of unity and diversity too. But now that you mentioned that proverb, it really inspired me to bring up this proverb too, because it is one of my favorite proverbs. Because I call myself a global citizen, regardless of all these borders, regardless of everything. Earth is just a rock, a piece of land that we are staying on. And of course, the divisions between countries are necessary. The division between religions might be necessary, might not be necessary. But at the end of the day, we are all humans. We are all humans, and humanity is built on compassion and on the feeling of welcomeness and on the feeling of welcoming someone into your culture, promoting your culture through them. And that is what, at the end of the day, makes us human, in fact.
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. And we should keep this kind of mentality and this kind of thing in mind. Like for everyone, not only for us, but for everyone, and share these wonderful ideas. Okay, so I think we are at the end. So first of all, I would like to thank you, Tvesha, so much. Thank you so much for your availability, for your time, and taking part of my podcast. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and to everyone listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this. And secondly, again, I would like to repeat, I'm just a youth from India who's really interested in geopolitics, climate change, education. And I have been researching on this topic since the past 1 year. And I tried to give my input as a normal citizen of India, not aligning with any governmental policies, but as a citizen, as the youth of India. And I really do hope that it was all understandable. I could make you all understand the perspective from India well. And again, thank you so much, Mr. Nicolo, for thinking of me and inviting me to your podcast. It's an amazing and it's a pleasure to be here.
No, you're welcome. The pleasure is mine. Okay, so for my audience, you will find this podcast on Spotify and YouTube. And then I'm going to share also some clips on Instagram and TikTok after a while, after I finish recording all of this. And in the next episode, you're going to meet other guests, and we're going to talk about other geopolitical aspects. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tvesha, and thank you so much, all of you.